So why did I buy this car in the first place? Well, firstly, I was playing Need for Speed Heat, and there's 240 in there, and it reminded me about the ownership of 240s. I hadn't had one for a while. I really missed them, and I was kind of interested in having a classic car. So, what do you know, I ended up buying one, and it was, as I said last time, needs some work, or we've done a whole heap of work, and you can just see how beautifully it's running right now. So, yeah, it's just been a really pleasant car to drive around. I don't drive it around that much, just like on the weekends pretty much, or if I need to run into the center of my town to you know, go to the post office or get something, and the weather's not good, maybe I take it to the train station if I'm taking a train in. I've got a pretty modern car as well, a newer Volvo, and I am interested in kind of doing a bit of a comparison between the two and how much Volvo has changed over the years. But coming back to this car, like, it's a much more pure driving experience, and there's something I just really appreciate about that. I don't necessarily think it's something I need forever, to have just a car which is pure, just like engine, steering wheel, no computers or anything else, and it's kind of just like nice. The car, I had a Skoda as well. I've done a video on that. I'll try and post that soon as well, because I filmed it a little bit before I actually started the channel, just because I knew I was getting rid of it. I thought good opportunity to do it, and that was pretty pure as well. The Skoda is pretty simple, but going to like a newer modern car now, it kind of like coming back to this, it just kind of reminds you about what driving used to be like, right? There's no like super fancy tech in this car. It just feels honest. 240s just feel so honest. They really do. It's like what you see is what you get, and it's just so overbuilt. They just have a feel to them. Anyone who's driven a 240, you know what that feeling is. The sound of the engine, kind of like the whir it makes, how it somehow feels heavy and light at the same time. And I gotta admit, I can't believe how many 240s there actually are in my area. We're in Melbourne. I live in the city of Darebin in Melbourne, and I think it's a little bit of the nature of where I live, but there's so many 240s around. Like, every time I go out, I feel like I see another one. It's kind of like 240 Central, I swear. And most of them are just still on standard plates, which means they're like being used as daily driver cars. It's a real testament to how overbuilt and reliable these are, and can even, I mean, they're built right for Swedish conditions, American conditions, can take Australian conditions as well. And, you know, nothing against Hyundai. Hyundai is a great car company, but around the same time, you know, this was being made, this last one, 90s and stuff, the Hyundai XL was starting to come out in Australia. Okay, maybe it was a little bit later than this. And I remember you used to be able to see Hyundai XLs everywhere. And granted, it was like one of Hyundai's first cars in Australia. And Hyundai is a lot different to it used to be back then. But there used to be XLs everywhere. I might see one Hyundai XL a year now, and I'm like, but the amount of 240s I see on the road still, it's just crazy. And Hyundai, you know, again, not Hyundai bashing. I actually was looking at buying a Hyundai on the Ioniq. I think it's called hatch crossovers, before I bought another Volvo. And yeah, it was really cool. So nothing against Hyundai. There's plenty of other examples like that, and there's plenty of other cars that, like the Toyota Camry, which, you know, you still see everywhere. But people just love these. I'm actually kind of shocked how many people like just like stop and say, oh hey man, lovely car. Someone did actually say that to me at the market, or just like comment on it. I've got a friend who has one of these as well, so I always see him driving around, which is pretty funny. Maybe we can get his car on the channel as well. Check that one out. Is it a little bit different to mine? But just like people, when they see it on the road, just love it. There's a guy in a Nissan Silvia the other day, and we were driving opposite, and he was like flashing at me, all excited, and he seemed just really keen to see a 240. So yeah, that was pretty cool. But definitely a complete opposite type of car. Well, not complete opposite. I mean, you know, you could probably turn this to a drift car if you really wanted. But yeah, just cool to see that across the automotive community, people will have some sort of respect for the 240. But I have actually considered selling this car. I haven't gone about and done it yet. I don't actually think I will end up doing it, especially because now I've decided to kind of share it with you guys. But I realize that I think I would miss that kind of pure form of driving, that expression of just you and the car, and its simplicity and its honestness, and like these old switches and stuff, like no touchscreen or anything like that. I honestly think this car probably outlived the other car I have, even though it's a Volvo. It's just kind of like a different ideology of manufacturing, a different take on approaching technology within a car, and just the simplicity of the 240, right? It kind of just makes it bulletproof and gives it such a certain charm. And let's remember, this car's done over 45,000 kilometers, and it still drives brilliantly. I honestly think this is the best 240 I have ever driven. I've driven, you know, a good handful of these and other Volvos from the same era, and yeah, it just rolls, man. There's actually an abandoned 240 up here, which maybe I've taken some parts off, but I've also gone to pick apart in just up in the north of Melbourne. There's a pick apart. I've got some pieces of trim off it like this, and yeah, just to replace some of the cracked bits. I'm really lucky with this one. The dash is not cracked at all. Actually, there's a very small crack down here, but you'll notice, like in 240, anyone who's had 240, your dash is probably cracked. I do not know how mine has managed not to be cracked yet. And look, I'm just holding out, making sure, just hoping that this one doesn't crack anymore. It's got this kind of protective piece of carpet on it, which is good, and it helps. So we'll see how we go, but it sure does get hot. So I'm a little bit worried that it is going to crack at some point. we're gonna stop in and get some tacos. Then we're gonna head in back home. Also, massive shout out to all people who have already subscribed to this channel and commented and given it some love. Yeah, didn't expect really anyone to subscribe, but yeah, really appreciate it. It's good to show that there's so much love out there for these cars, and I just wanted to share kind of this one and how I feel about them, and yeah, just share it with anyone out there who's interested in 240s and just like cars in general. You know, there's a lot of people who kind of feel like cars are changing, and they are, but look, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I don't think just because you like electric cars or hydrogen powered cars, speaking of, we'll get back to hydrogen in a second, doesn't mean that you can't like these cars as well and have them at the same time and appreciate it. I was actually, when I was in the market for a new car, I was driving the Volvo C40 around for a bit, seeing how I felt about it. I decided I didn't really want to spend that much, so I didn't go with C40 in the end. I went with an XC40, so not much different. But look, I really enjoyed that car and it was a lot of fun. Alright, let's go get some tacos and we'll continue our chat in a moment.